So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Cheryl Ehrman, and I'm the Dean of the Davidson College of Engineering. And today it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Auston Davis, who is VP and Chief Information Security Officer at Heartflow. Mr. Davis received his BA in Political Science and Government right here at San Jose State University, go Spartans, and a Master of Science degree in Computing Information Systems from Boston University. He's also a 23-year veteran of the U.S. Air Force and Air Force Reserves. He has held cybersecurity positions for several major companies and interests in his career. He was Senior Technical Manager at Merrill Lynch, Director of Global Cybersecurity and Investigations at Visa USA, an interim CISO, and Director of Threat Response and Investigations at Symantec. His most recent position before joining Heartflow was Chief Information Security Officer at Stanford's Children's Health, where he led recovery from multiple publicly reported breaches and bolstered the security defense posture of the organization, going in and solving problems. He joined Heartflow in January 2019, where he is responsible for providing overall global enterprise information for the company, physical and product security to its customers and patients, as well as maintaining its enterprise-wide security program. When he's not busy with his work at Heartflow, once you're a Spartan, you never leave, he also teaches computer science, 265, cryptography, and computer security right here on campus. So please help me give a warm welcome to Mr. Auston Davis. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Oh. Can you guys hear me? All right. Oh, thank you so much for the warm introduction. It's always funny sometimes when you hear your introduction because a lot of times the marketing people at your company write them. And just to digress for a quick second, I remember one of the larger conferences I did, I don't know, about 2 or 3 years ago in Las Vegas, or about 10,000 people, and they assign you a handler, a handler much like Sella, right? They're the person that tell you where to be, to make sure you're there on time and tell you when to start speaking. Well, the marketing department folks looked at my background, they wrote up my bio, and I'm waiting on the side to go up and speak. And the people are actually doing the introduction of me, but I'm listening to the introduction, and I'm going, wow, whoever they're talking about, that guy must be like James Bond's cousin or something like that. I got to meet this person. And it turns out they were talking about me. They were introducing me. And I'm looking at the handler, and the handler's looking at me like, get up on stage. What are you doing? So anyway, I appreciate the introduction. Thank you to the Silicon Valley Leaders Symposium for inviting me out here. Thank you, Sella, and your team for making this happen. And thank you all for coming. What we're going to look at today are future challenges in cybersecurity. More specifically, we're going to talk a little bit about Heartflow. I don't know if Jeannie Kim, our marketing person's in here, but if I don't talk about Heartflow and you don't see its center there, she'll do things to me that, we just don't want to see happen. We'll also talk about artificial intelligence and its impact on cybersecurity. The weaponized Internet of Things. You guys ever heard about the weaponized Internet of Things? No, nobody in here has heard of the weaponized Internet of Things. Quantum computing, and then we're going to spend the most time talking about the shrinking skilled workforce in cybersecurity. Okay? All right, so what is Heartflow? Heartflow, we are a company that is dedicated and committed to transforming how coronary artery disease detection is done. Okay. Right now, there's a test that's out there on the market that focuses on sticking a needle, really painful, invasive test, to figure out and measure changes in blood flow, fluid blood flow, to determine whether or not your arteries are actually clogged and if you need a stent or any other type of medical procedure. What we try to do is we try to say, hey, send us a picture, a CT scan, and we'll figure it out from there. We'll apply our artificial intelligence, our machine learning, to that image, and we'll tell you the same thing, and nobody has to get stuck with a big, bad, ugly needle. Okay? Essentially, what our product does is we enable clinicians. So for our biomedical engineering folks, this should strike a chord with you. Our product enables clinicians to identify significant coronary artery disease and determine the optimal treatment pathway. That just says, again, it studies how blood flow is going, and it tells the doctor here, if you put a stent here, this will get the blood flow going again. Okay? All right. How it works, again, you get a CT scan. Everybody loves CT scans. Nobody loves CT scans. We take the CT scan. A 3D model is then generated just from the CT scan. We do our analysis on that. And then the doctor receives this in return. Blood flow here is great. Blood flow here is great. Blood flow here, not so good. And it'll tell them exactly where to do what they need to do in order to improve that blood flow. So, and if anybody has had instances of heart disease or any of that sort of thing with their families, Heartflow is the answer. All right. Still trying to see if Jeannie Kim, our marketing person, is here. But you guys can all tell her, did I do a good job with this? All right, thank you. Okay. So let's get into some of the new stuff. Artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. Artificial intelligence overall, it's great. It's great from a modernization of things. It allows us to invent things that couldn't have been invented before. But there's a flip side to artificial intelligence as well.
Shall we play a game?
Anybody know what that reference is to? Oh my gosh, am I that old now? Okay. Yeah, War Games. Okay. War Games was a movie from about 20 years ago that kind of dealt with artificial intelligence and computers taking over military defense systems. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I guess I'm getting up there. Okay, just a couple of quick points about artificial intelligence, because sometimes people use the terms artificial intelligence and machine learning as synonymous, but they're actually two different things. Artificial intelligence is actually the overall concept, and the focus is to get computers to mimic the functions of human beings. That's the total goal, okay? A subset to artificial intelligence is machine learning, okay? And that focuses on the ability of the machines to receive a set of data and then make decisions on that data and actually decide on new algorithms themselves to use to further process that data. And then finally, you have the deep learning portion, which is a subset of the machine learning piece, which deals with a whole bunch of these things called neural networks, okay, in order to improve the machine itself's learning ability. Make sense? We're all on the same page? All right. So, there are some great uses for artificial intelligence. Autonomous driving would not be possible without artificial intelligence. I mean, as you see here, this person is comfortably riding in their car. They know where they're, about how far they are from their destination if they're late for a meeting. They're reading a book. The car is analyzing what's going on with traffic outside to make sure that they don't run into anything. I actually see this now without cars with autonomous driving vehicles. Because I ride a motorcycle and I see people like on laptops drinking coffee, doing their makeup all at the same time. I'm not even mad, I'm impressed. But this is our future with AI. We wouldn't be able to do what we do at Heartflow without AI. Medical diagnoses, being able to determine what actual disease patients are suffering from, the right pathway to treat those patients, those things are possible because of AI. And then finally, for some of the people that are a little bit more paranoid, you may not consider this good, But physical security and surveillance is improving. I don't know if you guys are all aware, but the folks that were involved in 9/11, they were actually on bad people lists, right? But nobody caught them because we didn't have the surveillance to catch them quickly enough. With artificial intelligence, depending on where you are, sometimes some of these scanners are actually taking a look in groups 10 times the size of this, looking for one or two people. But instead of just trying to compare one image to the next image, they're looking at alterations of an image for that same one person. That kind of stuff isn't possible without artificial intelligence. But unfortunately, there's another side to it. What if, and these are the problems that cybersecurity professionals are going to have to solve, what if instead of using that system to make sure people get to where they're supposed to get to safely, what if I'm a foreign government and I want to take out an enemy or a rival leader? Okay. What about on a smaller level? What about if I want to kidnap somebody and then maybe ransom off that person, right? AI could be used for that. What about instead of helping patients, what if I use AI to figure out exactly the most effective way to kill a patient, right? I don't mean to get all doom and gloom, but this is the world that we as cybersecurity professionals live in, right? This is the great world that most of us get to live in, and that's fantastic. But by nature, this is how we think in terms of cybersecurity. What about instead of preventing a bad person from doing something, what if we use physical security and surveillance to find targets, to find people that shouldn't be found, right? It's cybersecurity professionals that are going to be figuring out how to prevent these things from happening. Now, artificial intelligence is making some great advances in the cybersecurity space, some great advances. Self-healing networks. So how many of you have held a full-time job in like a full-time professional job? Okay, so most of you guys are okay, so about half graduate students, half undergrad. Okay, good. And so in the course of being at your job, you got some kind of email or some kind of notification from cybersecurity telling you, hey, we need to cut this server off, or we need you to leave your computer, we need you to step away from your computer because we've had a cybersecurity incident, right? And then you have to wait hours, maybe you have to wait days before you can get access back to your computer, right? Because there's so much work going on by information security professionals in order to return that network back to a safe state to where you can operate off that network again. So, with artificial intelligence, it presents a case for what we call self-healing networks, where not a human being, but a computing system, a computer system detects, not through a one-to-one comparison, hey, we know that this is a bad thing, so we're going to take specific action on it. No. Through behavioral analysis, a computer system detects that we've been attacked. Nobody has to get up from their computer. There's no downtime because with artificial intelligence, that computing system is now talking to other systems, saying, hey, if there was a malware attack, let's clean the machine that caused the malware. Let's automatically analyze, did that malware go to other machines? And if it did, we'll clean it up from there as well. We'll talk to all the other different security systems, and we'll tell them to do what they need to do to make sure that the attack is gone and the attack can't come back. That is possible. We're a ways away from it, but that is absolutely possible with artificial intelligence. What about, have you guys been listening on the news about things like, what was one of the later ones? Poodle. Anybody hear about Poodle? not the little dog, but like a poodle attack or Petya that shut down an entire health system in the United Kingdom. Anybody hear about that? It's okay to say yes or no and shake your head. Anybody ever heard about that one? Okay. There was a lot of information that was coming out way before that came out on TV and the news and that sort of thing about the attack. We knew what kind of systems it attacked. We knew what industries, God bless you, we knew what industries the attack focused on, right? So we as cybersecurity professionals, we had to take that information and figure out, well, how do we protect our systems so that it doesn't end up impacting our organizations? But it wasn't a simple conversation. It was, hey, Sam, I know that you have a deployment going on, so do you mind if we take down that? With proactive defense, all that stuff happens relatively instantly. With proactive defense, and by way of artificial intelligence, a notification comes out that, hey, this attack is propagating throughout the United States. Our systems take immediate action to make sure that that attack can't occur within our environment. It starts patching systems. It starts changing firewall rules. It starts telling all of our other systems how to block this thing before it can make its way in the environment. I should not have used the angry robots. One of the biggest fears with artificial intelligence is that it's going to replace human beings' ability to do their jobs. But one of the things that I'm here to tell you is there's some jobs in cybersecurity that are mundane. There's some jobs in cybersecurity that just take up a lot of time to provide little value, right? Like going through logs. Have any of you ever looked through a log file and 10, 20,000 lines of errors and all that good stuff? Why can't we just have a computer do that and tell us what's interesting from that log file? So when I talk about staff augmentation, yeah, great. Let's have a robot do some of those mundane things so that we can take these high-dollar people and have them working on more interesting stuff. But like I said, I know you guys are noticing the theme here. I'm kind of like a stick in the mud, huh? All the happy puppies, and then I come in with the rain showers. But again, this is where I live, right? I live in the red area. While really smart people are trying to figure out how to build self-healing networks and come up with proactive defense and come up with staff augmentation, the bad guys are also using artificial intelligence. I don't know if you guys knew that, but the bad guys are absolutely using artificial intelligence. So what they're saying is, in a typical attack, an attacker can stay in that environment that they attacked anywhere from 3 months to a year. That's what the average is, okay? Because they know that's how long it's going to take for an information security team to discover them, to clean them out, and to find out and to get to the full bottom of what they actually did within that network environment. With persistent attacks and AI, an attacker could stay in an environment forever and continue launching attacks forever. Because with AI, you can constantly figure out, well, what changes are going on in this environment? I was using this server over here to store all the data I'm stealing. But, looks like, God bless you, looks like the security team cleaned that server. So I'll go ahead and use this one that they just stood up, the one that they just cleaned. You can use AI to figure that stuff out. There's a whole concept, which we're not going to talk about today, called the kill chain, the cybersecurity attack kill chain. Usually when an attacker comes into to someone's organization, they come in, they come in through a real simple attack that nobody's going to pay much attention to. Then they start doing reconnaissance on the organization. What servers do I care about? What accounts do I care about? What data? What data do I want to steal at the end of the day? And what else can I use all these resources that I have now figured out I have access to, what else do I want to use them for? Do I want to use them to attack other companies, right? These things usually take a period of months, right? But with AI, that whole kill chain can be done in minutes. You can figure out what the network has on it. You can figure out the defenses. You can figure out the data that you want to steal and launch the attack right away. Okay. And then finally, there's good staff augmentation and there's bad staff augmentation. Okay. You can have hackers that convince the companies that they're actually part of the companies. Right? And they keep doing their bad stuff. Nobody knows that they're there. And it's hard to get rid of them. Okay. So in the military, we try to use these main words: weaponized, tactical, and strategic. So in my civilian life, I always look for every opportunity I can to use the word weaponized. See what I did there? All right. So a lot of people aren't sure what the Internet of Things actually is. The Internet of Things is a lot of things, right? It's a device that's actually connected over a network to another device with the purpose is of transferring information, right? So that Nest thermostat that you probably have at home, right? So that you can tell it, hey, this is the temperature I want the house to be before I get home, right? That's an Internet of Things. The doorbell, the Ring doorbells, and I forgot what the other company is, that's doing these doorbells. I mean, I was in Toronto about a month ago, and I could see who was coming to my front door. Even a doorbell is an Internet of Things. I actually hate the Ring doorbell, just so you guys know, because my wife, she also has access to the Ring doorbell thing, and I like to order DoorDash sometimes. So she can see every single time I do that. You gotta disable that thing. My wife is in the back of the room. I was talking about the other thing, not that thing. So let's go ahead and move on. I got to find a place to live after this. So for my biomedical engineering people, huge use of Internet of Things in the biomedical space, okay? Biomedical devices have great patient data, which attackers love. Biomedical devices are great ways, and let me just kind of go to the next slide. Biomedical devices produce great ways to break into corporate networks. Biomedical devices are great if you want to actually launch what we call a denial of service attack, okay? For those of you who aren't familiar with the denial of service attack, a denial of service attack overwhelms a resource to the point to where that resource becomes unusable, completely unusable, okay? So, why is a Internet of Thing type of device or biomedical device, why is it a great method for data theft, backdoors into the network, and denial of service attacks? They're computers, but they're not everyday computers. So they have little to no security associated with them. What do you have on your laptop? You probably have some sort of antivirus, right? You have some sort of antivirus on there, probably a software-based firewall on there. You have some security controls on your device. But these biomedical devices, your Fitbit, you think that thing has any security on it? Is that what it was designed for? Or was it designed to take your steps and maybe blood pressure measurements, right? So the attacker community loves the Internet of Things. And they love biomedical devices because like when I was Chief Information Security Officer at Stanford Children's Health, We put millions, and I mean millions of dollars into trying to secure our network, all right? The bad guys knew I can't secure that biomedical device. And they knew that that biomedical device needed to be on my network. What do you mean it needed to be on your network, right? Why does a Fitbit need to be on a hospital network? The Fitbit doesn't. But that same device that's supposed to be measuring the person's blood pressure, that same device that's supposed to be checking and making sure somebody's heart is still bleeding, pumping, not bleeding, right? I have to allow those devices on my network. And the bad guys know there's nothing I can do to secure those devices. Now, obviously there are, but there's more and more devices that are coming out there that, frankly, you can't secure, but they have to be on important networks. Just some quick news about the Internet of Things, just so you guys know it's not just the paranoid guy up front talking about it. There are some recent articles about attacks on Internet of Things type devices. Okay? A 300% spike measured in the terms of billions of attacks on IoT devices since last year. The type of attacks and the use of IoT devices in attacks has grown tremendously. You guys are going to start reading about more attacks that were successful because of Internet of Things type devices. So, oh, just in case you guys didn't know, you guys know we hack stuff too, right? The United States? Okay. All right. So, I know you guys are all San Jose State students, which means you're the smartest students in the world, and I mean that hands down. Just to get a quick idea about how many of you are familiar with quantum anything, quantum mechanics, quantum. Okay, all of you that just raised your hand, don't ask me any questions about anything having to do with quantum, all right? All right. For the purposes of this discussion, and some of you can probably relate this even better than I can, what quantum computing does is it makes use of the laws of quantum mechanics, okay, to do massive computations of data. A standard computer still works in bits, zeros and ones. Right? Can take so much data, only so much data, and a specific type of data at a time, where quantum bits, or what are they called? Qubits, can take on an infinite number of different types of values. Okay? This is important for the next part that we're going to talk about. This stuff actually blows me away. And it's the next area that I'm actually studying. But I've got a full-time job as a Chief Information Security Officer, a part-time job here, stuff I do at church, advisory on a lot of different boards that I'm in, and oh yeah, I'm also a dad. So I'll get to studying this at some point. At any rate, great new development. Well, depending on who you are, great new development. Right, actually out of Google. Google claims that they've actually invented a processor, a quantum processor that works in quantum computers, that can execute the same calculation in 200 seconds, okay, that it takes the world's fastest supercomputer, not regular computer, 10,000 years to handle. So just let that sink in for a minute. We're going from 10,000 years on some of the world's best computers down to seconds when we're talking about quantum computing, okay? Now, a quick lesson in cryptanalysis. And I can see some of my students in here, and I can tell my students are in here, because as soon as I mentioned cryptanalysis, they all went, oh. When we talk about cracking passwords, we talk about cracking computer passwords. Computers don't actually store your password in them, okay? They actually store your password in what's called a hash file, okay? That's all you need to know at this point. The average computer can compute a hash value in about 0.0017 seconds. What does that mean? That means that about every second, a standard computer can create about 588,000 passwords or hash values to try to compare to the hash value of your password. Everybody with me? Can everybody just go like this real quick? All right, cool. All right, so about every second, about 588,000 passwords are created to try to guess the hash value of your password, to crack your password. A supercomputer, which is not a quantum computer, a supercomputer can do the same thing, but about 150,000 times faster. Okay? So, let's take a great password. If we tried to break, again, for my crypto people, brute force just means that we're just guessing. We're continually guessing until we guess right, okay? So to try to guess a password, to guess this password, which it's a combination of uppercase, lowercase symbols, numbers, the whole gamut, and it's about 10 characters. What that means is, on a regular computer, on your and my home computer, it would take about 289,000 years for our home computer to guess that password. Is that feasible? No, none of us are going to be alive. Maybe with artificial intelligence. No, I'm kidding. On a supercomputer, it'd be about 3 years. It would take about 3 years for a supercomputer to guess that password. On a quantum computer, we're going all the way from 289,000 years to mere minutes, if not seconds. We don't know what that is. I'm sure there's people that work in classified careers that know what that specific number is, but you guys are talking about a whole change, a whole shift in how we protect our computers, how we do computer security. This is just passwords, folks, right? On our iPhones and our Androids, we have encryption, right? That was the thing that the FBI was trying to get to catch the terrorist people, but Apple said, no, we're not going to give you the keys to decrypt and get access to that phone. Do you think quantum computers can break encryption? Yeah, it's going to be in seconds. These are problems that computer people have to figure out, okay? Which brings us to our last area. 5 years ago, the Secretary of Defense announced that one of America's biggest threats is a lack of a trained and aware cybersecurity force. Okay? One of the biggest threats to our country is a lack of cybersecurity professionals. Okay? The Department of Labor estimates over the next 10 years, we're going to see a 32% growth rate in cybersecurity jobs. Okay? That's much faster than any career. So all of you that want to be developers, no, I'm kidding. I can see a couple of professors giving me dirty looks, like, what are you talking about? It's a viable field is my point, okay? There's a lot of people that see the challenges that we've talked about in some of the earlier slides. They see the challenges coming, so they're trying to hire security people to address these challenges. We're seeing an increase in the number of job postings just between 2017 and 2018, but we're seeing a decrease in the people applying for cybersecurity jobs. And how are we doing on time? Good. but we're seeing a decrease in the number of people that are applying for jobs. And so I'm one of those people, I actually go around and I ask, what is it about cybersecurity? Well, the discipline, the field itself, there's too much to know. If I focus in my area of, computer hardware design or, computer security, or no, not computer software development, there's a defined set of things I have to know. Cybersecurity, you have to know too much of too many things, so people don't want to do it. Okay. Here's one of the things that I'm here to tell you, though. Because I was here at San Jose State, oh my gosh, 20 some odd years ago. It feels like yesterday, honest to God does. But I had hair back then. I remember sitting in an auditorium similar to this one thinking, you know what? I met a woman that I want to start a life with. How the heck am I going to take care of her? How am I going to be able to take care of a family? I'm about to graduate from San Jose State, and I have no idea how I'm going to do this. Do you guys see how I'm making my way back in with my wife? You guys see how I'm doing that? Cybersecurity didn't exist at that point, right? I was just looking at the numbers of what it costs to live and all this other stuff. And I wish cybersecurity existed as a career field, because the average starting salary, this was 3 years ago, was $65,000. Starting salary. You know how much I made in my first job? $30,000. Okay? The average mid-level salary is about $120,000. Now, these are national averages. I'm going to tell you right now, people in the Bay Area, take the numbers up about 20 grand. Okay? 85,000 is not bad for coming straight out of college, folks. Okay. 1 million, big number. It's the number of jobs estimated that aren't going to be filled, can't be filled in the cybersecurity career field. Okay? By the year 2028. Just let that sink in for a minute, right? It's not that people are going to make decisions not to go into cybersecurity. People won't have the technical backgrounds to go into cybersecurity. It's one of the reasons why I teach here at San Jose State. I see a lot of my students in here, and they're going, oh, that's why I come here, right? I mean, besides the fact, I love you guys. You guys are awesome students, by the way. But that's part of the reason, too, is I want to pique people's interest in cybersecurity because I know that this is coming. I'm one of the people that struggles trying to hire people into cybersecurity. We had 10 positions. We evaluated over 400 candidates. 400. About 20 of those candidates were qualified. That's the sad truth of it for those positions. What a lot of people don't know, there's a lot of specializations in career paths in cybersecurity. A lot of people think, well, cybersecurity, those are just the folks that the only time they do anything is when they want to ruin my fun, or if there's the rare attack that goes on, right? That's all cybersecurity does. Nah. Nope. There's application security. I get a lot of students every year, some, when I see what their kind of potential is, how they're grasping concepts and that sort of thing, I start looking to put them in internships. Because developers, guess what? You guys make the best application security professionals in the world. You make the best because you understand how applications work. You understand what goes into development. Remember a lot of those problems we were talking about? Like all the stuff we have to prevent with artificial intelligence, how quantum computing is going to start basically obliterating our encryption protocols, how the Internet of Things, how we've got to get a handle on these devices and securing those devices. Security researchers, that's what they get paid to do. These people get paid to brainstorm and figure out solutions to these kind of problems. And I'm going to tell you right now, these people make a lot of money. A lot of money. And they have really interesting jobs. My background, because what my last job in the military was as a computer crimes investigator. My job was to, how do I put this nicely? My job was to figure out who was trying to attack the United States and to gently figure out how to attack those countries that were trying to attack us. All right? So doing cyber forensic investigations was a natural inroad into cybersecurity for me. This job, for those of you that don't want the family life and want to travel all over the place and never be in the same place twice, doing cyber forensic investigations, you go all over the world. And your whole job is to analyze what happened, what data was stolen, how do we protect from people coming back in. Some of the lighter areas, some people think, well, no, I don't have any technical background. So, there's no problem with that. There's training and awareness in cybersecurity. There's governance, risk, and compliance, which focuses on all that policy stuff and risk management and all that good stuff. Whereas training and awareness for people that like being in front of crowds and coming up with new and innovative ways to train people to get them to understand what to do and what not to do in cybersecurity. There's jobs for people like that. There's a whole bunch of areas in cybersecurity. Okay? It's not just one thing. So, why did I choose a career in cybersecurity? I'm glad I asked myself that. When I started my career, I was working at Stanford University. Boo. I was working at Stanford University doing IT type stuff, right? Server administration, desktop support, all that kind of stuff. And we had an outbreak on campus. We had this virus that was just spreading like wildfire throughout the Stanford University network. Cybersecurity wasn't a thing. Nobody knew what to do. But I was intrigued by this thing is spreading so rampantly, how do we stop it? How do we clean the machines that have already been infected? And then how do we prevent new computers that are trying to join our network from getting compromised? And since nobody else knew what to do, I kind of raised my hand and said, hey, I would like to take this on. We got some really smart people in the room, and we figured it out, and I was hooked. Because cybersecurity is not the same career field every single day. Now, when you get to my level, unfortunately, it does get a little bit, the days do start to run together, right? Because I'm in more of the management side as a chief information security officer. My job is to oversee the overall program, which means I do a lot of meetings. So, one of the things that I mentioned before is my whole journey in my career has been interesting because it's always been two paths. One path as a military professional, started off my career as an enlisted member of the Air Force, got my college degree, and became an officer. At the same time, my civilian career was also progressing. When I got my degree from San Jose State, the type of jobs I was doing also started to change. But one of the things that I had figured out early, going back to that incident that I was talking about at Stanford University, whatever this is, since we don't know what cybersecurity is yet, whatever this is, that's what I want to do with my career. And groups had started forming in the newly formed cybersecurity industry. And I started going to those groups and figuring out, well, what do you guys need from me in order for me to become one of you. That was one of the first things that I did. And they said, well, you know what, Austin, you need to know networks a little bit stronger. You know what, Austin, you need to understand how databases work a little bit more. And so I went back and I did those things. And then I found my entryway into information security in the threat response world, responding to attacks, detecting and responding to attacks. And the funny thing was, as I grew in one area, I grew in the other area. So, case in point, in the military, I was an intelligence analyst before I became an officer. So my whole thing was military intelligence. And no, that's not an oxymoron. Shame on you. But in addition to my normal duties, I gravitated to some of those things that were cybersecurity related. We had a foreign entity that was attacking our combat integrated system. So nobody knew what to do. I became the guy that when we started seeing certain activities on the combat integrated system, I'll take care of it. We know Austin will take care of it. When I became an officer, my original job was to be a flyer. But the Air Force said, we need people to do computer crime investigations. We have information security people, but we need people to do computer crime investigations. They looked at my background and said, do you want to do it? I said, yeah, I want to do it. And I joined the Office of Special Investigations. My path wouldn't be the same path as you would have into cybersecurity. Your path is going to be your own path. So again, thank you for me asking myself, how do you get into cybersecurity? We should probably do a Q&A here at some point. How are we doing on time?
We can start Q&A in the next couple minutes.
Okay. All right, so let me go through these pretty quickly then. How do you get into cybersecurity? I'm going to tell you right now, there's a ton of ways. The best way is to start in a security operations center. And you can come up to me afterwards and we can talk about what that means in a little bit more detail. Here's the biggest thing though. Before you decide to go into cybersecurity, assess what you want out of life. Okay? If you want family, if you want stability, like stability in terms of home life, there's certain jobs in cybersecurity, I'll tell you right now, don't take them. There's certain jobs I'll tell you to stay far away from. There's other jobs in cybersecurity I'll say, yeah, if you want the family life, these are great jobs for you. They're 8 to 5 jobs, okay? Here's the biggest one of all. If you truly understand how a computer works, okay? If you truly understand how network connectivity works, okay? And when I talk about how a computer works, I'm not talking about how you turn it on and how you turn it off. What I'm talking about is when you turn it on, what happens? What happens to the CMOS? What happens to the BIOS? What happens when you put your password into the system? What does a dynamic linking file do when it's interacting with the operating system? That's the level I'm talking about. When we're talking about networks, I'm talking about what does a packet do? How does it actually move from one place to the other? The more you know that stuff, the more I know as a security professional that you know. The more you know how it works, the more you know what a bad guy can do or a bad person can do to compromise that computer or that network. Step 3, this is the big one. Don't be afraid to go to security conferences. Don't be afraid to take security certification courses. A lot of those courses are designed to take people with minimal knowledge and bring them up to the level that they should be to obtain the certification. If you have family and friends in cybersecurity, okay, we're somewhat friends, so don't everybody rush me. We're not family though. If you have family and friends, ask them. Don't be afraid to go after a certification. Here's another big one. Don't just be here at San Jose State. Yes, you have to focus on your studies and all that. I don't want anybody's parents calling me saying, my kid said I need to get a job and now their grades are failing because of you, Professor Davis. Don't do that. What I'm saying is while you're here, take an opportunity to get an internship. College is a special time. Your responsibilities are different in college than they are once you get out into the real world, okay? You figured out a way to sustain yourselves on a certain type of income, so go get an internship. Go work for somebody doing a menial job. That's what a lot of these are, doing a menial job to get that experience. I'll take somebody who's done something related to cybersecurity any day, as long as they have a great attitude, all right, and train them up. Unfortunately, we get a lot of prima donnas in cybersecurity too, but because we know that there's a limited bunch of us. So some of us let that go to our heads, not me. I mean, I have a big head, but that's physical, not mental. Okay. And here's the last part. LinkedIn's, I love you too. LinkedIn is a great tool. Just go out and type in cybersecurity. Type in information security. Type in cybersecurity network. You're going to see a whole bunch of people will pop up. On some of these people's profiles, it'll say looking for mentorship opportunities, which means they're looking to mentor somebody. I talk to some of these guys, and they say, Austin, I'm begging to mentor somebody, but nobody comes to me. Nobody asks, right? So don't be afraid to network and get a mentor in the cybersecurity field. There was one thing when I wanted to be a pilot in the Air Force that I remember before I actually got the opportunity. One of the pilots, right down the street here at the 129th Rescue Wing at Moffett Field, one of the pilots came to me and said, hey, Sergeant Davis, I understand that you're going for an officer slot. I said, yes, sir, absolutely. He said, well, wait a minute, I thought you wanted to be a pilot. You know what I told him? I said, yeah, but so many people want to be pilots. There's no chance I'll ever become a pilot. And he looked at me, and I will never forget the look that he gave me. He gave me a look like, are you serious? The worst thing, Austin, somebody can tell you is no. The worst thing somebody can ever tell you is no. Does that affect your paycheck? Well, I mean, I guess it depends on the no, but does it affect your self-worth, your self-value? Does it affect anything? No, it's just a no. Okay? So don't be afraid to ask for a mentor. Don't be afraid to try to get a job in cybersecurity. All right? And that is my time.
All right, so we've got a few minutes for some questions, which I'm sure we have some. These last few slides were super helpful, though.
Cool.
He's answered all your questions.
Say again? No. Am I still in the military? No. I actually retired in 2013 after 23 years.
All right, other questions? Your question on this side.
Thank you for a fascinating talk. I'm Nima Karimian from Computer Engineering Department, assistant professor. So my field is cybersecurity.
Okay.
So I was trying to digest the things that the quantum computer trying to break down every component of the security in a second. So what is the suggestion of the countermeasure for that? Any?
Well, I mean, that's just it. I think right now we're still relying on older tactics. And, I mean, you're in cybersecurity. You understand. When you put the human component into it, we start talking days and months. What I'm trying to bring home is the attackers are already starting to use AI to attack us. So we need to make that shift. And so how do we counter it? We counter it by changing our focus. Instead of using these old and outdated tools and continuing to improve old and outdated tools, shift just like they are to focusing more on AI.
Okay, how about one more question? Middle of the...
Hi, Professor.
Hey, Jason.
Yeah, so I was pretty interested when you were talking about quantum computing, even though you did mention you didn't know that much, but I didn't realize that we've gone so far that they actually managed to do like, that much computation in that short amount of time. So in theory, let's say within like a few decades or so, they managed to be able to crack some of the NP hard problems with their quantum computings. Does that mean our current model of security is basically done for, or are there things we can fall back to that quantum computing can't really tackle?
Well, and that's a great question. Remember I said no questions about quantum computing? No, I'm kidding. I think what we're seeing, Jason, is a complete paradigm shift, is what I'm saying. I think that the invention of that chip, like you were talking about, so recent, nobody expected that chip for another 5 years, but it's here now. So what that means is we can't continue to rely. We've got maybe a lifespan of maybe another couple of years at the most to rely on existing encryption algorithms, at the most. Now, I think that there are people that have they have certain levels of security in their jobs that have them already focusing on this problem that a lot of us didn't know was coming. Remember, a lot of what goes on in cryptology, what goes on in the encryption